You hear stories about what companies were like during our grandparents' generation. They got things like pensions, good benefits. That's not a thing anymore. There's not that same level of loyalty that existed back then.
It's very interesting when it comes to this because there are two sides to this. I did a whole video about why the middle class is disappearing. One side says the middle class is straight up, they're making less money, they're doing worse, the middle class is shrinking. The other side says the middle class, when you adjust for all the government benefits, is actually doing better today than they were in the 1960s and the 1970s. And the middle class today is shrinking because more of the middle class is now upper class. They're making more money. And so they're able to afford more things. So it's a bit nuanced here.
Graham brings up an interesting kind of philosophical debate, but I have to look at this just as somebody who's living in Gen Z today and go, bro, what are you talking about, respectfully? Housing prices through the roof have increased. Healthcare costs through the roof have increased. Education costs through the roof have increased. And on top of that, the ROI is less if you're college educated today than if you were maybe 20, 30, 40 years ago, right? So I have to look at this and go, what are we talking about? The government makes things cheaper? Where? Government subsidies, government help? Where? It seems like everything the government touches just becomes more expensive. Healthcare, through the roof, man, when they got involved. Education, student loans, it seems like when they got involved, through the roof, right? Housing, maybe that's a little bit of government, maybe that's not, but that's still through the roof. So I have to look at it and go, I don't think being middle class today is significantly easier. I think you get more perks in terms of technology and these little toys to keep you docile. But I think if you look at the macro, big, important things, it's getting more expensive. And I'll give you an example. At my last job, I was offered a healthcare plan through my employer. Do you want to take a guess at how much it cost me, a 26-year-old single male with no dependents in good health? $200 a month. And that's for crappy coverage, and my company paid for, I think, half or a little bit more than half. $200 a month, right? 26, good health, no dependents. So I went and I looked on healthcare.gov, right? They say, oh, the government wanted to make healthcare so affordable. So I said, okay, I'll put this to the test. I'll go on healthcare.gov and see what they've got. It was between $500 and $600 for the cheapest policy, even worse coverage on healthcare.gov. Again, 26-year-old male, good health, no dependents, nobody else on my plan, just me. No major health issues in the past. What are we talking about?
Don't tell me that companies can't afford to pay more, because when you look at corporate profits versus employee compensation over time, companies have been screwing us for the last 20 years. Corporate profits have just gone up and up, whereas our compensation, our wages, have mostly stayed stagnant.
Yeah, but that's also because of the internet. There's a lot of products with very low overhead with very high profit margins. I would say this is more because of efficiency. Now, yes, that technically means they'd have more money to spend back on their employees, but the internet really, again, skews things in such a way where overhead could be lowered, and I think a lot of jobs, frankly, could be outsourced at this point.
You know that I got to look at it through the Gen Z lens. This is the reason why I think Gen Z is kind of jaded, or maybe one of the contributing factors is, man, bigger labor pools that we're competing against. And on top of that, a lot of these business models are not necessarily making it so that we get paid more. In fact, it's making it so that there's fewer jobs available per company than maybe prior business models. Technology is being leveraged in a way that's maybe not optimal for the worker.